At FitFiliate, we're excited to announce the Affiliate Engineering Seminar. Coming soon to an affiliate near you, don't miss this exciting opportunity to create the affiliate of your dreams. Link in show notes or in bio to register. Welcome to the FitFiliate Podcast. And welcome back to our next episode of the FitFiliate Podcast. Super excited to once again sit at the desk or our virtual desks across the globe with the one and only Tony. How are you?
I think I need to ramp up the guest schedule again here or something soon so that I don't get lambasted with your interrogations on these Wednesday afternoons for me. But I'm still stepping along, just, over here walking to nowhere. It's just doing my thing.
We could nickname you Dory. Like, you're not swimming, but just keep walking.
Just keep walking. Just keep stepping.
If you were running, we might call you Forrest, but,
What's the shark's name?
Bruce.
Bruce, yeah. Bruce. My name's Bruce.
Well,
great movie.
It is. It's very good. Very, very good. So, mine. Every time I see seagulls now, I'm like, mine. Anyway, we digress to Finding Nemo. I thought this week, which I guess could be a nice segue in when we talk about fish in a fish tank, but why we as affiliate owners have lost the ability, or maybe we haven't lost it, we just don't realize we can access it, to think bigger than aspiring for a 40-hour work week and I'm only going to make this amount of money to pay the bills, and not understanding the concept that our destiny, whether it be for creating unlimited income, for creating freedom, for creating a life we really want, is within our capacity. And I think when we talk to affiliate owners, we say, well, and coaches, that your ability to create your income is infinite, and you just watch their brain explode right in front of you in slow motion almost. But we've lost the ability, or we're scared to tap into the ability, or we don't even know where we have it, of thinking bigger than just what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Pun intended.
Yes. Well, that's a loaded topic. Great. Let's just go for it. It's my first podcast back from being sick. Hopefully my brain can put together some conscious thought patterns here. What I think is interesting about, it's not an affiliate owner thing. I think it's a human thing. Having had enough conversations with enough people, affiliate owners included, just in terms of, well, we've talked about in here, like the magic wand question, which is really just a test of like, what do you think you're capable of, right? Or if you thought you were capable of anything, what would that look like upon completion? And jokingly, but in all honesty, what ends up happening with every single person, like at least 95% of the consults I end up taking with humans, business owners and otherwise, like they end up telling me what they don't want. Right? They end up, instead of saying, oh, I want this, and being very crystal clear with like what they're going to wish for from that genie, they tell me things like, I don't want to coach the 5 a.m. class. I don't want to be late on the rent. I don't want to be this. And I'm like, all right, let me stop you right there, because I really hope to God you never find a magic lamp and waste your wishes on what you don't want. Because like, you absent of those things, okay, then what? Right? So you're not coaching the 5:30 a.m. class. You're not doing that. And blank stares, right? They're just like, because humans in general, I've found, have a fascination with escapism, in that they're perpetually and continuously in pursuit of something in a different place than where they are. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this, but I think that that's core to this whole conversation, because most people are trying to spend more time getting out of hell than they are trying to get into heaven. Mm-hmm. And that becomes its own issue.
And it's almost kind of how we're raised, I guess, and go through the education process. And, it's like, here's your box, here's where you fit in, here's your demographic, here's your thing. And not having that permission to ponder something bigger and something more. And like, if I do think about it and dream about it, that it can be it, rather than just being settled for this is the ceiling. This is all you should hope for.
Yeah. I think an effectively loaded question for anybody that's listening to this would be, what do you think you're capable of? And what's interesting about that question is that, kind of an aside from that, we'll come back to it, humans are ridiculously overconfident in irrelevant areas. Like, there's a study, and I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but they were asked to rank themselves, 1 to 10, how hot they thought that they were. And most humans thought that they were at least 7s or above. And most people generally voted them somewhere in like the 3s and the 5s. Right. And the reason I bring up that reference is that if I asked you what you think you're capable of, you would tell me great things, because you're not going to boldface tell me your weakness, your insecurity, and your failure potential. Right. Like, if I asked you, what do you think you're capable of, you would probably tell me great things. Okay. So, and then if I said something to the effect of like, give me a list of what those great things look like, you probably would, I think, much more effectively be able to tell me like this, whatever, house or money, or, list the things that you would likely associate with some degree of great things. And that's great. And so then if I said, okay, perfect. Now, how do we get those things in your business? Like, how do we get you to do, like, and when you make it a realistic thing, right? And you make it about like what they're actually truly capable of, or what their current situation has the capacity to produce, I get a completely different answer, right? I end up getting like this thing riddled with doubt and fear and avoidance and insecurity and all these other things. And I think that that's such an interesting paradox. It's one that I love to spend a lot of time in with a lot of people, because it fascinates me how, on one hand, you can pretend to yourself to be so confident, capable, and otherwise, but then in terms of truly being capable and actual and realistic, you give me this quote unquote realism that is the complete opposite of it. And I think that part's always been fascinating to me.
And it's, we ask questions famously of clients when they first come in the door, is like, what's the magic wand? What is, if everything goes right, what does it look like? And we have a great deal of difficulty conceptualizing what everything going right looks like. And we just can't get to that point of allowing ourselves to think that that could actually be a reality or close to it, rather than, well, that's just fanciful. I've got work to do. I need to go and coach 60 classes this week and, clean the toilets 50 times and do the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm going to plant this cross on this hill, and that's what I'm going to die on.
Yeah. And so I think that's the other side of it, right? So like, if I asked you point blank, well, what are you capable of? You'd probably tell me great things, etc. But then in the middle, it gets chaotic, whatever. But then if I said, what is a business capable of, etc., like, what, or to your point, I guess, Lisa, like, if everything was perfect, what does it look like, right? And they would probably tell me it looks like, this, that, the other thing. But the thing that's missing from that future state is them. So if I say, okay, what are you? What does perfect look like for you? What does it look like that you can produce? I get a very different answer, right? And so it's interesting to me that they think themselves capable, and they think this future is capable, but as soon as that I ask them to insert themselves into that future, the reality changes, the future changes, the whole situation changes, the entire paradigm changes.
And that's a perpetual struggle, and that we struggle to then conceptualize, like, why can't, if we can visualize, if we can think of that for the business or this external thing to us, why is it we have difficulty with it for ourselves? And not focusing on the, what I don't want to happen, but what I actually do want to happen, and understanding that can absolutely come to reality.
Yeah. And I think in that same question, there's, another question, and maybe this doesn't affect all of you, but I think a lot of people listening to this why is it easier for you to envision yourself continuing to suffer or suffering in a future state than it is to envision yourself succeeding in a future state? If you would also tell me that you are capable of great things. So wouldn't it be true, if you think you're capable of great things, but you can envision yourself suffering in the future, that you are in fact the one that is causing your suffering? Well, that changes the whole thing, right? Because as soon as that comes up, they're like, I wouldn't possibly sign myself up to suffer. I'm like, really? Well, let's look at some repeat patterns, right? And then they're like, wherever I go, there I am. Here we go.
And once we've, like, suffering is, I was talking to somebody the other day and we're talking about the concept of suffering and why we put ourselves through it. I feel like it's, akin to cocaine. We get addicted to the suffering and we like wear it all over our body and tell everyone that we can, have 30 seconds with that we are suffering and that it's a badge of honor and that it's, here's my rite of passage. This didn't come easy. I wasn't sitting here relaxing. Like, this is just where it's at. And life's not meant to be easy and all those sort of things. But we, I think, subconsciously sign up for that because that's what we think it takes to get anywhere, even though it feels like when you're suffering, you're not really getting anywhere.
The struggle of this podcast being a podcast and the format of it being a podcast is that what's important is that the answer to that is nuanced with every single person, because I think all of us have a different reason for it, but the outcome is the same, right? Like, there's a lot of different reasons that I think can bring forward, and I'd be very curious to know, everybody's listening to this, what their reason is that keeps them in this perpetual state of grind, perpetual state of pursuit, of busyness, of, I don't want to say self-destruction because that's bad, but that's kind of what it is, right? And instead of, in this advancement. And I would love to know the answer to that. You just book, call, and tell me, although I don't think you're going to sign up to do that because nobody really wants to admit that they are, in fact, the villain in their own narrative, right? They want to be the victim. And I think that's the problem, right? I think a lot of this is just me thinking, and I think a lot of this podcast always is my opinion and my assumption, but it's based on a lot of experience with many people and myself included, right? It's much simpler. I wouldn't say easier. It's much simpler to assume the role of victim in your life and to point at all the things that you do or don't have, or the unfortunate circumstances that were dealt to you and the bad hands and this and that, than it is to realize that, oh, wait, if I am infinitely capable of great things, then therefore I must be the villain in this situation because I have been the one who has been causing myself great suffering, knowingly or otherwise, up until this point. But it's not until you get to that point, until you step back far enough to be like, wherever I go, there I am. And where I am seems to be much like an asshole every time I show up. And I don't say that to mean like dismissive or comical, because truly most of us are assholes to ourselves, right? Like if anybody else talked to you the way your inner voice talks to you, you probably would be in prison, I would assume. Yeah. And so it's interesting that we do that. And then the degree to which we do that and the regularity of which we do that, it's not that uncommon to figure out why we are willing to suffer for so long when we have such a loud inner dialogue regularly whispering in our ear. What are you going to screw up today? Right. And most of us live a life along that line of, I don't know, just don't fuck it up. Just don't fuck it up. And I think that part has to change, because until you become aware that you are in fact the villain, or you have that inner villain dialogue, can you realize that, like, oh, if I just redirect that, I can then become the hero in the story, and I can take control of the situation, and I can exercise my great capability to create great things, and I can create the future that I want. But if I stay the victim, or if you stay the victim, you will perpetually be waiting for someone else to save you. You're going to be looking for someone else to come and someone else to have the answers, or to help you, or to give you permission to get out of this situation and tell you that you are no longer the victim, you're safe. And while there are many victims in the world, you are not inherently one of them just because you are a human and because you own a business and because you are a business owner or an entrepreneur. Like, you have to realize that you are the hero and you're going to save yourself. And once that happens, I think it changes, but it starts with that insidious inner dialogue that is so detrimental.
And I think, that inner dialogue is fueled by, information people take on and they read, like, I think if you ask the vast majority of the population, like, they forward and they share, all these motivational quotes, but deep down they're like, I don't really believe that could actually happen, but I'm going to share it because I'm that kind of person that believes that, rather than, but inside they're just a withering pit of, and I'm speaking for myself here, withering pit of insecurities and doubts and limiting self-beliefs, and just being told, for some people, you're told your entire life, this is what you should settle for. And then as soon as you verbalize to somebody that you maybe think that you are capable of more, or even, God forbid, want more, and it gets shut down, and it happens time and time again, and people get that learned thing of, like, you don't step outside the square. This is it.
The probably the heaviest cross to bear, and I just got off a call discussing this actually, is being burdened with the belief in yourself. And what's interesting about that is I think everybody that's listening to this would want to believe in themselves, and they truly believe in an ideal future where they do in fact believe in themselves, and they probably even think they may in fact believe in themselves currently. But your actions say otherwise. And the reason I say that it's the heaviest weight to bear is that it's at that point that you realize that if I believe in myself, that means that I don't have to rely on others. I am capable of anything that I want, and I am essentially capable of great things, which means everything that I don't currently have is my own fault, right? And that weight right there is so soul crushing and so just demoralizing that many people would attempt to avoid it. And they attempt to avoid it by avoiding the ability to believe in themselves. And they do this by masking their existence inside larger organizations and larger companies where they get to believe in bosses and share in missions and things of that nature. They believe in professional sports teams because it can be about their mission and what they got to do this weekend. They believe in all these external things. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an employee in a great company or having a favorite sports team. It's just that in many of those situations, not all, but in many of those situations, people choose to be a part of something bigger than themselves because the weight of being a part of the self is so terrifying. It's so heavy because it's not until you get to there and you're stripped down to that point where you're raw enough to be like, if I don't have it, it's my fault.
And that's a really, and I've sat in that spot, that's a really uncomfortable spot to sit and to actually look back in the mirror and that go, shit, this is on me.
Yeah.
And that can be a bit of a minefield, and this is, we always talk about the power of coaching and versus, gurus. But this is, definitely a time where you've got a coach to help navigate that space with you rather than going, I just give you more information. And that's not going to take away this thing, because then that gives you a way to abdicate responsibility and say, well, it was the thing, it was the information, it was a duh. But when you're actually sitting and someone's holding space for you to have that awareness, that, that's a really big space to be in. And having someone to help you navigate that is incredibly powerful, or continue to ask you questions to stop you getting stuck in that, well, I'm just a bag of shit and I may as well stop. You need to move through that. So that's when you get to the good stuff on the other side.
Stepping into that space, I think it's an interesting sort of scenario to fantasize about, because it is fun to assume I just need to get into the great room. I need to get into the trophy room. I need to get into this arena of greatness. And when you have somebody who helps you get the key and realize that you've been holding it the whole time and just put it in the lock and turn the lock. So many people step into that great hall and then like, oh, turn the lights off. Like it's terrifying in here. Because I think, you know, at its core, it's kind of like what we talked about before. And I guess this is how these things always work. But most of us are afraid of success. Because success is the most individual and real and raw thing that you could possibly achieve. And the weight of the idea of success is far different than the fantastical notion of success. Like it's much easier for us to conceptualize and think about like how nice it would be to have X, Y, and Z and all these things in this have and have not scenario. But to assume that we could be successful and to assume like what success would look like, or to step into the role of success would mean we now have to carry that weight, that legacy, that responsibility, that importance, and all the people that we would be built upon and that we have to take care of below us. And for that reason, it's much easier to stay small. And this is really what brings us back to the thing in terms of affiliate owners and business owners in general, not just affiliate owners, is that you see it all the time. People who are relentlessly and meticulously modifying their branding and their logos and their websites, and they're cleaning and they're buying new equipment, and they're doing all these things that they could possibly do to keep themselves busy, to prove that they are in fact busy, and to validate themselves to the world. But upon somebody like us coming in and looking, being like, hey, good news is you can stop doing all those things because they're not helping you. Right? Like, let's just do these 3 things and you'll be successful. And there's a reason why so many people run away from that proposition. Right? They're just like, I'd rather be busy, because busy is safety. For so many people, they choose the distraction of busyness because it helps them avoid the absolution of success.
And I think, you know, by being busy, it's not until someone virtually trips over it by accident that they go, oh, I am successful by any, you know, any metric that you could find. But because it doesn't look like what you thought it might have looked like, and you're then scared of what you thought it might look like, you don't acknowledge that I have been successful for a long period now. And it's often too late then for them to enjoy that moment, because they're like, that can't be real. It does, like, being successful doesn't exist. Like you look at the world's greatest athletes, you look at the world's greatest rock stars or whatever, they're still working and they're still creating and they're still, you know, spending months and months and months on the road touring or whatever. And you would define some of those as hugely successful, but, you know, then someone would go, yeah, but they're still working. If they're successful, they could stop. It's like, well, it's not a definite endpoint. And I think that's what's scary to people at times, is that, like, we crown the fittest on earth. If you win the CrossFit Games and you're fittest on earth, then why don't you stop at that point? But they keep working, because there is no state of being fit. It's your journey to fitness. So, you know, people are like, well, success, understanding that it's not an end point, but it's just a recognition of where you're at on the journey.
Yeah. I was watching something, I don't remember where, I think it was on YouTube, essentially about the creator economy. And what I think is fascinating about this is that everybody now annoyingly is aware of this notion of becoming a YouTuber, right? I think everybody has some sort of fantastical, you know, future fantasy of either becoming a YouTuber, probably OnlyFans, right? But like mostly YouTuber. But there's this idea that like, well, just kind of make videos all day and like I just mailbox money, right? It's just gonna come. Yeah. And so what I thought was interesting about this is, not that I didn't know this to be true, but they were talking, and it was like 3 of them, and they were talking about the struggle of the creator economy, particularly in the fact that, you know, they're well aware of the fact that everything they do is directly tied immediately to return, and that more videos, more editing, more etc. essentially means more money, right? And quite literally, so like for each video, increases number of views, increases number of dollars sent to their inbox, etc. Which leads them to sort of feverishly continue to mass produce and mass sort of consume this stimulus of just creating. And all of them, and these three are not the only ones that I've seen this with, but they all self-destruct at some point because they burn out, right? Because at some point they have to ask, for what? Why? At what point is this enough? At what point do we make enough money? Because all of them are like, we already live a life that would be unrealizable in any one of our fantasies before this. And yet for no real reason, we just keep working. And at its core, it goes back to the thing I said in the first part. It all goes back to escapism. Most of us work feverishly, not to arrive anywhere, but to escape where we're currently at. And if that's the thing that motivates you, you will remain in perpetual motion your entire life until the end of it, when you realize you could have stopped way before and you could just appreciate where you're at. But if instead somebody comes along like me and says, hey, why? What are you trying? Like, what does that look like? And in a lot of situations, it looks like, you're already there, right? Then they're like, yeah, but. And I'm like, let's spend some time in that but. What is that about? And it's not until you realize that are you going to ever be free from that pursuit of more things.
And I guess it's that feeling of, well, I'm supposed to be doing something. It's not right to say that I only do, and I fall in this trap as well, as like, it's not right to say, well, I just do everything I need to do in 2 days of the week, and then I can go, skiing, mountain biking, hiking. I can do what I choose for the rest of the time. And because then people go, well, that doesn't seem right. Like, you're not working hard enough. You're not contributing enough. Like, you must be doing something that's dodgy. And you get that fed back through, society, your networks, everyone will have an opinion on that. And we keep doing more then to go, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Rather than understanding what their why is. Yeah. And we always bring it back to your why. Like, if you have this all-encompassing why that drives you, like, like when you get there, you've got, this is the station I've plugged into the GPS. Like, I'm at the end of my journey. Now, where do I want to go? It's not like, well, here's where I stop, but where do I want to go from here?
One of the funniest, but also the most polarizing places that most of the clients get to in this journey is that exact point where, as a coach, you get to be like, it doesn't really happen this way, but you basically get to say, like, congratulations, you're done. Like, you did it. Like, and I'd pull out the file from, 2-3 years ago. Like, you're done. Like, your 10-year goal has been done under 3 years. Like, everything that you wanted that you didn't have, and they will always look me dead in the face, you dead in the face, any of their coaches dead in the face, paralyzed in fear. I can't possibly be done. Right? And the reality is they're not done, right? Because as humans, we are designed to better our existence. Like, we will always be working on something. But the reality is that the first thing we need to be stripped of is this escapist notion of creation. Instead, we need to be, reassured or reinvested in this creative notion of arrival, right? Like, because until you know what, like, each stage and pillar of your life is going to look like, will you ever really probably find the comfort or the confidence, rather, to be where you're at. And like, in full disclosure, I still struggle with this. Like, admittedly, I have a pretty cool life, mostly by design. I certainly don't have everything that I could have ever possibly wanted. And truly the reason that I don't is that I've had to have very real, very raw conversations with myself, in the acceptance that I am just not willing to work that hard to have those things are not worth my effort and attention or energy to the degree of which I desire them, right? Because desire is essentially the contract we make with ourselves to remain unhappy until we accomplish that, or until we achieve it or acquire it. And so there's things out there that I still will remain in pursuit of. And I must remain in that state of perpetual generative drive, because that's essentially the hallmark of positive mental health. Like, I will continually and perpetually be bettering my existence, my situation, and my potential to the best of my ability, up until the point like I have no more potential, aka like life is over. But that doesn't mean the same thing as remaining busy and remaining distracted and remaining exhausted and remaining just extracted of all of my potential to give to other things, to the point of seeking external validation. Because if you step way away from success and notion and money and business and all these things, and you take a look at A Tale of Two People, you take a look at these people who, potentially could be very successful, and they could have all these things, and they could be, super rich, I guess, to go back to money. And take this other side, and these people have literally nothing, but they're super happy. Which one would you choose? And what's funny is that most people would, I think, choose the super rich one. But what I didn't say is that super rich person is actually not happy, right? They are in pursuit of that success in an attempt to escape from something or to mask something. Whereas the person who lives behind the bush, they're just happy, right? They know where to get their fish for the day. They know what to do. And like, it just is what it is. And there's so many layers of complexity in this as it applies to how you operate inside your business, but how you drive and move your business forward, that all come back to your sense of generative drive. Are you motivated by the personal, professional, and potential development of yourself to the degree of which you are capable, or are you instead driven by this notion of escaping where you're at? One of those is a positive mental state. The other one is a neurotic, anxious state.
And, most of us fall into that second one, is I just want to feel differently. But they also don't understand what that differently is. So we just keep working and going, yeah, that's different. That's different to how I felt. Like, if someone has told you your whole life that you're not going to be anything, you're not going to amount to much, you're not very smart, you're not good looking, whatever. If I keep running, then those feelings can't catch up to me.
Yeah, it's safer there to be in pursuit of something else than it is to be present in a moment.
Yeah. And we want to we want more, but we don't want to admit to ourselves that we want more, and we can't make it okay to want more.
Yeah. Well, all humans, and I think I've said this before, but all humans, we tend to view humans as a culmination of all the things that they have to be successful, right? Like, look at what they've acquired, look at what they've achieved, look at what they've done. But the reality is, all humans, every human is a walking, talking, living, breathing demonstration of where they've settled. And if somebody has far more than you, or somebody has far less than you, the only difference there is that one was willing to do more things, or to embrace more discomfort, or was willing to do less things or embrace less discomfort. That's really it. And that's not to say that you should be spending your time being uncomfortable. It's that you need to be crystal clear on, is the thing I'm pursuing worth the effort that I'm essentially contributing? If yes, then continue. Because for most of us, what you'll find is that the very things that you are quote unquote working hard at really don't have a place in your future. Like, they might be things that you want right now so you can escape the situation that you're in, but in the big picture, they're not things that you wish for. And so don't be surprised if you work tirelessly on the achievement of those things and you achieve them, because your situation not change at all.
And you're right about saying where someone's settled, and we often don't understand, because someone's journey through to where they're at is like an iceberg. We just see this tiny little tip at the top, not everything that they've either overcome, or those moments where they've sat and faced themselves in the mirror and gone, well, shit, this is all on me, and done some of those uncomfortable things and had those uncomfortable conversations, or search for more. We just look at the top and go, well, they're just better than me, or they just deserve it, or I don't deserve it, or this whole gamut of bullshit stories we tell ourselves constantly. But where someone has settled, but someone can be okay with where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay if that's, look, this is my life. I'm very content. I'm happy. I'm good. And I'm still pursuing some things, but essentially I'm good. It's not a bad thing, but when we're talking about in the context of, we run businesses which save and change the lives of not just the people who come in it to do burpees and thrusters, but also, the people who work for us and the people who we interact with on every day. We have that responsibility to then, in that seat, to keep seeking more, as in not more things to do, not being busy, but seeking more, because, I feel like that's what we're compelled to do in order to keep changing and saving the lives of the people that entrust us to do that, whether as employees or whether as members or just part of our wider community.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot, man, there's a lot in that one. There's the thing that I think is so interesting about the affiliate particularly, and really the entire ecosystem, working anywhere in the ecosystem, is it's so easy to get caught up in the altruism, right? Or the martyrdom, or, whatever it is, where it's not that people inherently feel bad making money or don't want to make money because they want to help people and they feel like they want to do it charitably or otherwise. It's just that it's hard to do those other things, like make the money or ask the money or run the business or make the business decisions. And it's easy to help people. It's really, really easy to care about someone. And it's hilarious to me how much of a thing people make that into, like, to care about other people, when I'm like, as opposed to what? Like, what is the other option? And if truly, if there is another option, what are you even doing here? Like, it doesn't mean you have to be overly kind and overly happy or listen, everybody will tell you I'm the big jerk, right? Like, I'm the hardest one to relate to emotionally.
I would never say that.
Yeah, right. But that doesn't negate my ability to care about other people, right? And my inability to understand and empathize sometimes is a bit of a struggle. But that in of itself is so interesting to me, because if care is so simple, why do we end up giving ourselves so much leeway and so much runway to spend time in care, and so much less time in building the business? And the answer is really simple. It's harder, right? It's much more difficult. And in fact, nobody that I know of in this entire space came in being like, listen, I know I have the opportunity to care about people, but I really want a business the shit out of this. Like, there's probably some. I've just not really come in contact with them. In fact, quite the opposite. Everybody's been like, this shit changed my life. I want to change other people's lives. And they come in, and it's really easy to just pour yourself into the easy part, which is care. It's easy to care about how to run a class and to be a better coach and all those things. And all that stuff is easy too, because that path has been laid for you. Like, you can go about your life the same way everybody else has up until this point, which is you can quite literally just follow the path, L1, L2, L3. Like, you don't have to feel a certain way about yourself because somebody's telling you you're doing a good job. But if you choose to go the other route and you choose to become a true entrepreneur in the space, that's much more lonely, because you have no roadmap. You have no path that's been pre-laid for you. You don't have anybody to tell you you've done a good job except for yourself. And, and I posted it today, but there's a big difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And that difference is that entrepreneurs solve problems and business owners just run a business. But bigger than that, though, is that entrepreneurs sign up for a substantial degree of loneliness and uncertainty, and business owners just shell out money for a sure thing as much as they can. And that doesn't mean that a business is a bad thing compared to an entrepreneur. It's just a very different thing. And that's why there's two different types of affiliates. And we're largely focused on the entrepreneurial ones, because your ability to solve problems inside and with the CrossFit methodology inside the ecosystem is massive. Your ability to exercise your entrepreneurial muscle inside this ecosystem is huge. That's why we love this newfound idea of the creatives. But there's also a relatively attractive path of the business owner, right? And that is essentially the ones who are looking for the systems and the processes. But all that said, like, the reason for those two things, the reason why that's important to reference them, is that it's hard. It's easy to care. It's hard to do the hard work. And when faced with the confrontation of doing the hard work, you have to make the choice: do the uncertain or do the common. And very few people will do the uncommon in favor of doing the common, right? And so if we can figure out which one of those two you are, I think it's a little bit easier to guide the conversation. But not only that, but I think it allows you and it gives you the space to step back and the acceptance to say, okay, the care part is easy, right? That's the given. Like, doesn't mean that it's I should say it's simple. It's not easy. It doesn't mean that, like, you don't have to care about it, but it's that I need to spend my time on these things because these are not the things that I'm good at. Because business is really simple, especially an affiliate, right? It can be broken down essentially into a handful of steps. Step one, just charge more money than it costs you to acquire a customer. Step two, keep more customers than you lose. Step three, get and build a team that will do that thing for you. Step four, stop touching it. That's it. Like, those 4 steps will solve your entire business. Now, that's simple, not easy. I get it. But the reality is it's not really that difficult either. It's just that we want to make it difficult, because if I get to step 4, it's going to be very lonely there. I'm not going to be relative at the dinner table to all of my friends, family, aunts, and uncles who all suffer at work. I'm not going to be able to relate to pretty much any one of my clients, because I'll essentially be free. I'll be riding my bike. I'll be doing my things. I'll be going wherever I want to do, or wherever I want to be, and do whatever I want to do. And there'll be no one to do it with me. So it's easier to stay in this collective identity of struggle.
And I think too, like, something important in that, and I was about to write a piece of content for something the other day, and I referenced entrepreneurs, and someone I was talking to said, people don't identify as an entrepreneur. They won't understand that. They won't connect with that content. I was like, interesting. And I was thinking about it more. And, most people, when they say they would feel that tinge of like awkwardness if they were to say, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, I'm a business owner, is bricks and mortar, and it's a thing. Whereas an entrepreneur, they imagine themselves as being Richard Branson and, just having entrepreneurs have this lavish lifestyle, or they hide on YouTube all the time, or all those sort of things. It's like, people have a perception and it gives them the ick almost, or they're uncomfortable saying that, because no one can really define what is entrepreneurial, but rather it's like, here's the known thing. So we've talked a lot about like things we're afraid of, and this is probably another one that, if I'm a business owner, that sounds solid, and I'm an upstanding member of community. I'm in the business community, rather than I'm in a field of one being an entrepreneur and I'm just hanging out in the rare air, riding my bike, skiing.
It's one, entrepreneur is the hardest word in the English language to say that is the most overused. I swear it's got to be the one. Like, I don't know any other word that is misused more often than that one, because more often than not, more people who claim to be entrepreneurs are not. They're essentially just, something. But I think maybe because it's a fancy sounding word, right? It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds elaborate or whatever. So to people, when the idea of saying I'm an entrepreneur sounds a lot like being like, I'm famous. Like, it seems like a humble brag more than anything. But generally speaking, any one of us who introduces himself and says that they are in fact an entrepreneur is really just a way of saying, it's too complicated for me to tell you what it is that I do. So I'm just going to try to boil it down to one word that you're probably going to dismiss, which is entrepreneur. They're going to be like, oh, that sounds like you do a lot of complicated things. So I'm not even going to ask them to sound stupid. But I think for many entrepreneurs, more often than not, at least in my experience, they tend to just say I'm semi-retired, right? Because the only way for people to conceptualize what it is that someone in that situation does is that, oh, they don't do what I do. Right? They don't go to work 9 to 5 or give to contribute. Like, basically it's too hard for me to conceptualize it. Like I kind of live my life on my own terms, by my own standards. I only work on what I want to work on, when I want to work on it, with who I want to work on it with, and where. And like that is people are incapable of processing that information. So most people are just like, oh, I'm semi-retired. They're like, you're too young. I'm like, oh, age is just a number, right? Like it's just. But the reason for that is that it's easier, to your point, to say I'm a business owner because most people know a business owner, and those business owners are miserable, right? And so it seems safer and it seems nicer. It's just like people being like, "How are you?" Can't complain. Like people love to lead from this sort of this passive aggressive, humble perspective where like it's none of those things. You're just saying it because you just don't have really the confidence to be like, "I'm fucking amazing," like because. Yeah. If I said that, then like you're going to realize that you're not amazing. And then if you realize you're not amazing, then I'm going to feel bad for making you realize that. And so what I'm going to do is just bring myself down and hope that you'll meet me there. And all that stuff is a whole different conversation. But yeah, the truth is that most people aren't entrepreneurs. They are business owners. Most people are self-employed. They're not even business owners. And that's okay, because those three things are still much better, in my opinion, than being in charge of or working alongside something else. But the same point is that there's many great entrepreneurs and there's many great, business owners and people like that are a part of larger organizations. And there's nothing that says that like you have to take a tech company public to be successful. As long as you know what it is that means success to you, because at the core of this whole conversation, that's what this is about. Until we can get you crystal clear on your ecological pursuit, what your idea of success and your version of success looks like, everything else is essentially a potential distraction. Because once we get crystal clear on what it is, then two things happen. One, we can eliminate everything that is not getting us there. And number two, anytime you do anything that doesn't get you there, it's on you, and we can start there.
And that's then when people can quite often go, but I came to you for the answers. And I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't come for this conversation. I just came to get the what next. Like, just tell me what to do, how to fix it.
Yeah. Which is one of my favorite conversations, because my question is, why do you want that? And what do they want? They want to get out of the situation that they're in. But we got to talk about first how you got in that situation. And because if I just tell you how to get out, how do I know you're not going to do it again?
And we are creatures of habit. But also it's understanding, like, I just want to get out of this situation. Well, what's your greater purpose? What's your just cause? What's your mission? Because then you can say, I don't want to be in this situation. Well, what situation do you want? You can't move from this situation to where it is that you want to go. And if you don't know that stuff, then you're just going to keep, like you said, you're just going to keep coming back to this same position every time because you don't have a North Star.
It's a good use of your time. Like one of my favorite questions, and it's probably the hardest one for most people to answer, because they'll tell me all the reasons why whatever they're working on must get done. But how do you know? Right? Like how do you know what's a good use of your time unless you are crystal clear on where you're trying to get to? Because once you know exactly where you're trying to get to, anything that does not get you to that point is not worth doing. And so many people just avoid that conversation, though, by simply trying to be busy and tell me what they don't want, or trying to escape something, or trying to solve a problem because it's a huge problem. But that's all that is. Problem solving and reaction is just escapism.
And it not necessarily being prepared to own your path and own your journey, which is, take the wheel. It's instead of saying, well, Jesus, take the wheel. It's like, no, I'm going to take the wheel. I'm steering this exactly where I want to go, because, live, die, fail, succeed. It's me. And I can create it to be whatever I want it to be. And we often talk about when a client comes in, like, it's not our dream to tell you what your affiliate should be. It's your dream. And you get to choose that. You get to be in control of that. If you want to, run a microbrewery in the back corner, cool. Like, that's your dream. We're not going to say, well, no, your affiliate should look like this and it should have this and which, for everybody that sits and wants a playbook and a set of standards and, pushing towards almost that commoditization where everything's the same, But that's the beauty of owning one of these lines as the affiliate is you can make this thing whatever it is you want it to be. You've just got to be brave enough to dream about, well, what do I really want it to be outside of what everyone else tells you it should be? That's
not you, then who? That's really what it comes down to. Right? And that's the heaviest conversation of everybody, because if it's not you, then who's going to come save you? And the reality is you can list all the people who might potentially have the answer for you, but they're still not coming to save you. They're going to, if nothing else, they'll give you the answer, but you're still going to have to save yourself.
Yep. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes is be your own hero. And that's what you have to do in this space. But we have to give ourselves permission to do that as well, and understand that we are capable of doing that. And we don't need saving. We are fully capable of pulling ourselves, you know, out of through anything that we are in, if we have that North Star that we're focusing on getting to. We're more capable than we would ever believe. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fun chat. I've enjoyed this one today. I like getting into the field.
You enjoy all of them, but
you know, 1% something. No, I do enjoy all of our chats. You know that. But for those who are listening or watching, please give us a subscribe. Drop a comment if you have any thoughts on this. As always, please head over to Instagram and follow us at FitFiliate for more of our thoughts and insights. And we've got some exciting things coming down the pipeline, so keep an eye on the channel for that as well. But until then, we'll see you on the next episode.
Or hear you on the next episode.
Or hear me, yep. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please remember to like and subscribe on your favorite platform. And if you know an affiliate owner, a coach, or entrepreneur that would benefit from hearing our conversations, please share this with them. We love the feedback and support we have from you guys, our audience. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find all the useful links in the show notes. We would love to connect with you. Keep doing the great work.